Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
I am the sword in the darkness.
And you're listening to Girls Nerd Out.
I am the watcher on the walls.
And now our rewatch has begun.
Dracarys.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to all the new people. Welcome back to our loyal listeners that we appreciate so very much. It's me, Amanda, and my best friend in the whole wide world, Andrea.
Hey.
And episode 3, What is Dead May Never Die.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're at Craster's Keep because it picks up like right when the other episode ended, and Craster is pissed at Jon. He is livid. I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't kill him.
Yeah, I mean, he hit him pretty good. He was bleeding, but he didn't kill him.
Which, I mean, you know, what kind of a story would that be? But there's a lot to this because basically what happens is Craster like drags Jon and like you were saying, he's bleeding. And he's like, y'all gotta go to Commander Mormont. And they walk outside and Mormont's like, leave, Sam. And Sam's like, bye. And yeah, he's like, ah. And it's so insane because you have Jon. He's trying to explain. Like, Mormont's like a father figure to him at this point, you know, because Ned's gone. And he's like, no, I followed him. He took the baby into the woods, the newborn. Like, he's looking at this like, oh my God, you have no idea what I just saw. And then he realizes Mormont knows. And Jon gets this look on his face. And again, I have to give you credit. You're the one that made me appreciate it. The non-verbal acting. Okay, Kit did a fantastic job with that.
His face, like, you could see it in his face, like,
Yeah, his face fell, his eyes changed when the realization, you know, hit that, oh my God, I look up to this man. This man knows what this disgusting person is doing with these babies.
The thing is, they're the men of the Night's Watch. They take these frickin' vows, and the vows are so skewed because, like, you need men like Craster. That's what yours says. We need men like Craster. But do you? He's killing innocent children. I understand that it's because they serve crueler gods than they do. But this is wrong. I don't care. I don't care. This is just, it's disturbing because you can't have children of your own. You can't sleep with women, but you go to Mole's Town and sleep with women. And like, I don't know, their views are skewed. Realms of men. Those are your realms of men and you're letting them die. Well, not die, but being taken to,
I have 2 questions for you that I wrote here.
Yes.
Number 1 is, if you need Craster so bad, why don't you put a damn outpost there? And here's my other question. Okay, what you just said, they're going to Mole's Town, breaking vows in Mole's Town, and it's fine. You got Craster doing sacrifices. Okay, so the Night's Watch, I mean, you have people like Alistair Thorne and all this stuff. Like, do you think maybe the evil of men might have made the White Walkers stir?
Yeah. There's so much bad. Well, look at Craster alone. It's not just the sacrificing of children, but he's sleeping with children and marrying his children.
Uh-huh. And the Night's Watch doesn't do anything about it, so you're co-signing on that at that point.
They don't, they're just letting it happen. And it's like, it makes me side-eye the Night's Watch.
Same. And it's been like that for a while, and it just gets worse and worse and worse, which, eventually we'll see because there's going to be a damn coup. But, like, I wonder if the evil of men might have, you know what I'm saying? Like, the downfall of man makes something stir. I don't know. It's kind of like a Sauron vibe. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
It feels like that, which George loves Tolkien. Like, Sauron knows the age of men is like the perfect time to be ruling because men are weak. So it just kind of makes me wonder if, like, the worse off the Night's Watch gets, is that what wakes them up? Because the Night's Watch was pretty bad when Night's King was there making sacrifices.
You know what I like about this scene? Not just this scene specifically, but like right after we see Sam go with Gilly and follow her, and then he wants to give her a gift, right? It's like a bittersweet sort of part. Like you get all this evilness that you have to kind of deal with, and then you have Sam, who's so sweet and innocent here. I don't like Sam, but he's sweet and innocent here. And he gives Gilly a gift that his mom used. It's a thimble. He gives us a little background on him a little bit, saying, you're going to have this. I want you to keep it until I come back because, and then he gives her a little backstory about how he would watch his mom sew with it. And it's not like a huge scene, but I thought it was important. It was bittersweet,
It was very bittersweet. And yes, there are things about Sam that make me angry. This right here, this Sam makes me just hurt for him. I teared up because he's trying to give her this thimble and he said, my mother used it for sewing. She'd let me sit with her in her chamber while she sewed and I'd read to her. My father put a stop to it when he found out. It's the only thing I have of hers. She gave it to me before I left for the wall.
They have a very good relationship.
Randall Tarley is the devil.
Yeah.
And so that means that Sam's mom had absolutely no say in what happened to her son.
Yeah.
Which, if you know Randall Tarley like me and Andrea do, we know book Tarley and show. He is a piece of shit.
He also doesn't like women in ring mail.
No, we'll just say it. He doesn't like Brienne of Tarth, and he thinks that her getting assaulted would be good for her. It's sick. And when we get to the point when Daenerys roasts him, y'all just keep that in the back of your head.
Yeah. It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine.
Oh, he deserved it. Now, his son was an idiot. Yeah. That was just stupid. Dickon.
So, Jamie. Rickon. Dickon.
Next, we have a summer POV. I think it's like a kitchen worker or something. And she looks afraid. And then you hear panting. You're like, oh, wait, I'm Summer. And as soon as Summer gets on the bed, Bran wakes up.
You think he was warging into her there?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yes, because it immediately goes to the scene where he's talking about it.
You'd think that somebody like Maester Luwin, like I get he's a Grand Maester, you would think that he would believe in the magic because he's in the North.
I kind of made a note about this because Bran is describing his warging, and Maester Luwin isn't being rude about it, but he's just kind of saying, yeah, sure, that is a dream, and how many dreams have you had, that were something else? And then Maester Luwin talks about being at the Citadel, and he shows his link that's Valyrian steel, which is the link you get for basically magic. So if you study magic at the Citadel, the chain link you get's Valyrian steel, which is so incredibly interesting and so perfect. And what he's talking about is how they have every acolyte sit with a glass candle and try to make it work, which glass candles they're a magical thing that let people talk to each other over long distances. And they stopped working after the dragons died. And so the maesters know the glass candle's not going to work. So they sit an acolyte there for hours and hours and hours. And basically what it is gaslighting. It's like, you're not going to believe in magic after this because this thing's not going to work.
I don't like the maesters. I don't mind Luwin.
He's so conditioned to not believe in magic that Bran is like describing warging, and Maester Luwin just doesn't believe it. That's all about the Citadel.
I get that, but the thing is, has Bran before come to you about dreams like this? No. So clearly there's something there, but it is what it is.
But they know dragons existed, so, like, I don't know. But this is really funny to me, because Maester Luwin says, maybe magic once was a mighty force in the world, but not anymore. The dragons are gone, the giants are dead, and the children of the forest are forgotten. And all those things are wrong.
Yeah, I know.
The irony.
The night is dark and full of terrors of men.
Next, we go to the Stormlands and we're at Renly's camp and there's a tournament.
Yes. This was an interesting tournament.
Very much. These are the Knights of Summer. So you have Loras Tyrell and another armed person in all armor, very impressive looking. They are fighting. And then you have Renly and Marjorie seated in kind of, what would you call that? It's kind of like bleachers, but slightly more fancy.
Fancy bleachers, let's just call
Yeah, they have fancy king bleachers. Now, I will say this. Marjorie's outfit to me, this one is a little confusing. If she didn't have the cape on, maybe. I'm just going to say it's like a High Garden thing. It's not my favorite Marjorie outfit. I like her outfits when she goes to King's Landing.
Well, when she goes to King's Landing, her hair is better too. I know she's like from High Garden and everything, but maybe she's like me. And like when you get to King's Landing, because you'd think King's Landing is hot, but not all the time, because even Cersei is like, hey, aren't you cold? I know she said that because she didn't want her showing off skin, but at the same time, I think she really meant it because nobody dresses like that in King's Landing. So
Yep.
I'm just like, she's probably like me and just doesn't get cold that often.
Well, because her dress is like pretty, it's low cut.
Yes.
Marjorie's like, I know I'm hot.
She likes to dress like that, and that's fine. Go ahead, girl.
I don't have a problem with that. I love her.
Me too.
I'll say this too. Even though we find out Loras loses and it's Brienne of Tarth, even though that's her brother, Marjorie looks very impressed with Brienne. I do know this. I know Marjorie is smart as hell.
Yes.
I feel like I appreciate her even more with this rewatch. The way Sansa was not raised to know anything, and the way Marjorie was raised to know everything.
But Sansa learns. You see that, like she really learns, especially after in episode 4, or is it? Yeah, episode 4.
Yep. It's just, it frustrates me because I wish Sansa had had a little bit of the knowledge Marjorie was given, because they're not that far apart in age. It seems like it on the show, but like in reality, they're what? How many years difference? I don't know, probably 2 or 3, maybe.
Yeah, they don't have very much age difference, but you blame that on Ned and Catelyn Stark.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. You either teach your kids how to play the game or you don't let them go south. It is what it is. But Marjorie's been taught how to play the game since she was little. You know, Olenna did that.
Oh,
She
yeah.
made sure. She damn sure made sure. Renly says, "You are all your father promised and more, my lady." And it was kind of interesting to me because he's, talking about how great Brienne is, and Marjorie's like, now, my love, my brother fought valiantly for you. And I thought it was kind of, I don't know, like a little bit of a parallel, because we know their marriage is I mean, it's a sham.
Yeah.
And she calls him my love, and it just reminded me of how Cersei called Robert my love when they got to Winterfell. I was like, isn't that like a sham marriage thing? I mean, she's playing a part. She knows what she's doing.
But she does that with Joffrey and Tommen, but I think she actually cared about Tommen a little bit more than she did with any of her husbands, to be honest.
I agree with that.
My husband is my king, and my king is my husband.
Renly's like, you can have whatever you want. Brienne's like, I want to be in your rainbow guard. And yeah, not everybody's crazy about it, but Renly doesn't care. He didn't give a damn.
He just earned himself a great piece. Like, she's built, she knows what she's doing, and she's badass.
Okay, I'm going to make it as brief as I can, but what we don't get in the show is why Brienne is so much in love with Renly. So Brienne's dad had like a dance, and it was basically to try to like find her a husband. And all these different guys, highborn, danced with her, and she had the best time. And then she found out later it was a joke. Like all the guys got together and it's kind of like it's kind of like She's All That. It was basically like a bet to see who she would fancy. So they were all like kissing her ass, and Renly was the one that was like, "No, this is wrong," and he stood up for her, and she's been in love with him ever since. I feel like that gives it like a little more, you know?
Yeah. And she's really loyal right away. So I love that.
And it's beautifully written in the book. It's a sad story because she realizes that all of them were basically making fun of her except for Renly. In her eyes, he is like the perfect man. So yeah, she is as loyal can be. And she's in love with him. My girl Cat shows up. So what do you think about the interaction between Renly and Cat?
They felt like brother and sister, sort of, like feel.
Yeah, you can tell they knew each other. What'd she say? She hasn't seen him since he was a boy.
Yeah. They definitely have, obviously, history. I feel like both families just kind of grew up next to each other. Not next to each other, but grew up with each other. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah. And so she's announced as an envoy sent by Robb, Lord of Winterfell, and she is quick to say Lord of Winterfell and King of the North.
There was a lot of quickness here. I like it.
Yeah, Marjorie's really sweet though, and she says, "You're very welcome here, Lady Stark. I'm so sorry for your loss."
When Catelyn addresses Renly, she says, "My lord, not your grace." And Rand's just like, "You have to say your grace. He's a king," kind of attitude. And then she's like, "You should actually be kneeling."
She gets prickly as hell.
It's impressive.
It is. It's ballsy. But if I was Cat, I'd be like, "Who the are you?" I'd get riled up.
At first, she seemed kind of like upset by that, but at the same time, I think she's impressed by her too.
I wonder if Cat's thinking about Arya.
That's what I thought when Brienne tells her she's not a lady. Just call me Brienne. That's definitely what Arya would say.
See, I didn't even think about that.
I just wanted to say I don't like Loras here because he's like, why didn't Robb come? Why does he have to hide behind his mother's skirts? And I like what Catelyn said. She says, "My son is fighting a war, not playing at it."
Exactly, and I put a note for that too. And I actually said, "Good job, Cat." So that's rare.
Yeah, but Loras kind of drives me nuts because he acts like he's the boss and he's not.
Yep. And Renly's talking about how he has 100,000 men at his command, and that's why I said this earlier. It's because Catelyn gives him a nice big dose of reality because they are the nights of summer and winter is coming.
Yes.
Because she's just come from Robb, who is the epitome of serious and a bloody war, and then she comes over here and they're like having a tourney basically.
Oh, and I wanted to mention quickly, we don't see any of Robb's battles. We don't see any of the War of the Five Kings. The only battle we see is the Blackwater Bay. I just want to say, House of the Dragon has one up on Game of Thrones in a sense because we've seen technically, okay, we saw the fighting of the Stepstones and we saw that was in season 1 though. And then in season 2, we do see the Rook's Rest. So we've seen more battles than Game of Thrones so far.
Yeah, there's no way. This is just season 2. And with all the other stuff and showing Karth, there's no way that would have fit in budget. Now, later on, yeah.
No, I know. I just think I'm just realizing, wow, we don't see any of Robb's battles. Oh, the Bastards isn't even I mean, it's show canon, but it's not in the book.
Damn, I love it though.
I do too. I mean, some of it.
So yes, some of it. Some people don't like it at all. I know somebody that does not like Battle of the Bastards at all. None of it. Cinematically,
yes,
yeah, that's Miguel Sapochnik right there.
What is dead may never die.
After that, we're we're in the throne room of the Iron Island. Do you want to talk about it?
I didn't write exactly what Yara and Theon say, if you want to say that, but I will talk about when Balon comes in, because it's not a very long scene with him and Yara.
How do you know I made notes about this and thought it was so funny? I swear to God, that's why you're my best friend. But you know I have a crush on Yara. It is what it is, and not the actress. It's just it's the actress is Yara. Because I've seen her in other stuff and it's not there. It's just Yara. I can't help it. I mean, I'm the Southern Mother of Dragons, and I have chemistry with Yara. You can see it on screen.
Follow your favorite podcasters on all social media at Southern Mother of Dragons and at the Princess of Dragonstone.
So that's what I need. I need to find a Yara cosplayer. I swear to God.
Yes.
People would cheer if I walked around somewhere with a Yara cosplayer. I swear to God. All right. So Theon's pissed off. She walks in the throne room. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "I live here." "Are you angry with me, brother?" And he calls her a lying bitch. And she's like, "It's not my fault you didn't recognize me." And so basically he's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And she says, "I wanted to see who you were first. And I did." Mic drop. So she wanted to know what kind of person he was, and she figured it out, and that pisses him off. But yeah, talk about old Balon.
They're going to take the north because Rob took his whole bannermen, all of the army down south to deal with the south. So he's like, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to take over the north. Everything is for the taking, pretty much. He wants the Ironborn to reave and pillage like the old days, and he wants to secure the neck and everything above. Yara is going to take 30 long ships to Deepwood Mott, which we don't see. We don't get to see that. So Theon's just like, well, what about me? Like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to go with her. Do I get to have my own ships? He's getting one ship.
Mm-hmm.
One. And he is going to take that to the fishing villages on the Stony Shore.
Wait, what's the name of his ship, Andrea?
The Seabit. We thought that would be perfect for you, is what Yara said. But I'm like, yeah.
You get the sea bitch. I'll say this about Balon, and I don't think I noticed this before. He contradicts himself, and it irritates the shit out of me. Because he's talking about we don't sew, and that's the whole reason he's not going to align himself with Rob. Then, like 2 seconds later, you're saying you want to go capture the North, and you want to keep it. Even if you don't get Winterfell, you want to keep Deepwood Mott, but you don't sew. So what are you trying to, like, what? So either he's an idiot or it's bad writing, or both.
It's probably bad writing, to be honest. But I know that Theon, is supposed to be on his dad's side, but I'm just sitting here like, man, you're not even breaking a sweat over the fact that you're probably going to take over Winterfell.
What did you think, like, when he calls his dad out and he says, "You gave me away"?
Yes, you gave me away.
Your last boy. And then Balon hits him for a minute, and then he just pushes it away. You can see it.
But the fact that Balon's like, you're not a warrior, your brothers were. And I'm like, yeah, and they're dead. So
the guilt's what's really made Balon all bitter and stuff. Because, like, you got your sons killed, and you lost, and got however many Ironborn killed, and you gave away your son. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
He's so bitter.
He is bitter. But I understand where he's coming from at the same time, because he's like, they're Ironborn. They need to be doing stuff like this. They don't bend the knee to any like false lord. Their god is the drowned god. They should be doing what they're planning on doing, but it just doesn't go anywhere.
It would have made more sense for them to align with Rob and go reaving and kick some ass than to try to go and take the North. And like Yara says, I've always wanted a castle. But it's like that in the books too. That's the problem with the Ironborn. They can get it, but they don't know how to keep it. That's just not who they are. And like, in the books, like, since, you brought up the Drowned God, if they die and they're not near water, they feel like they're not going to go to the watery halls.
But a wise man once said that you should never believe a thing simply because you want to believe it.
I got questions about this next one. Next scene is King's Landing. It's Tyrion's chambers. We got Shay. She is incredibly arrogant in this scene. Tyrion is trying to keep her safe and hidden. And he mentions that she might have to like kind of fake work in the kitchen as a kitchen wench, and she's offended. I'm like, you were a camp follower, ma'am. She got accustomed real quick. There is no humble. I was like, Jesus, Shay, can you calm down? You got it pretty good, and it's not like it'd be permanent. And you're with the only Lannister that's gonna do that for you, so.
I don't remember Book Shay acting like that at all. I'm not saying it has to be. Like, I feel bad for Book Shay, just so everybody's aware. I don't feel bad for Cho Shay. I will never feel bad for her. She's a terrible person. But I liked her relationship with Sansa. So at this point, I think this is when she's like a brat.
It wouldn't be permanent. You fool. He's gonna keep you. He's just trying to keep you safe.
Yeah, I don't think she realizes the danger, but I do like how when he tells her to keep it down, she's like, what, you think your father's gonna hear me from 300 miles away? And I'm like, yeah.
He's probably thinking about the little birds.
There's lots of little birds, and I mean, it was so easy for Varys to find her, so.
I mean, and that's what he's trying to tell her. It just kills me, though, that she is so offended. And I'm like, ma'am, you were just you were just in a tent about to bang Ed Sheeran's dad. You were about to bang Ed Sheeran's dad, and then Braun got you, and now you're saying that like you're too good to be a kitchen wench. Okay, all right, sure, whatever you say.
Everyone who isn't us is an enemy.
King's Landing, dinner scene with Cersei, her children, and Sansa.
I feel terrible that Sansa has to sit there and eat food with her. Not necessarily with the children, because as children, I actually didn't mind. Although Myrcella acts like a spoiled brat here, and I blame that on her mom. Myrcella asks where the food looks beautiful, but Myrcella asks when Joffrey and Sansa will be married. And Cersei says when after the war is done, when it's won. Which I'm like, you really think Sansa's going to want to marry your son after all this? So Myrcella says, Mom is going to let me have 2 dresses. I don't know why she needs 2 dresses.
Because she's a princess. I guess she has a dress to wear during the wedding and then one after, just like a bride would.
Yeah, but I think she said they're going to be colorful, and Sansa has to wear ivory because she's the bride. And Sansa doesn't really react, and that kind of upsets Myrcella. Like, she gets this look on her face. Really good acting from this little kid, though.
Mm-hmm.
And Cersei's just like, your princess just spoke to you.
Because Sansa is you can tell she's sitting there like spaced out. She's disassociating basically.
Yeah, and I don't blame her because the topic of conversation is I have to marry my abuser.
Well, it's so sad.
Yeah, and she also watched him kill her father, so that's also kind of messed up.
Well, like the freakiest part though is like the robot Sansa comes out. And I mean, she's robotic when she says it. I'm counting the days until the fighting is done, and I can pledge my love to the king in sight of the gods.
And did you notice Cersei's reaction to that?
Yeah, and I think Cersei's getting off on that because she wants Sansa to hurt like she hurt from Robert.
Yeah, and it's just disturbing to see this again because I never really noticed it until we did the rewatch because I pay attention to everything now. And I'm just looking at this and I'm like, God, this is the most disturbing dinner I've ever seen.
Cersei is so hateful.
Yes, and I'm saying that over the Red Wedding. The Red Wedding is disturbing, yes, in a different way.
Yeah. No, that's gory and crazy. This is psychologically insane and cruel.
Well, yeah, and then Tommen asks if Joffrey is going to kill Sansa's brother.
Which he's
afterwards.
little, he's confused, and he's asking because that is something a little boy would ask, because he's sitting there thinking, wait a minute, Joffrey's my brother, but Sansa's gonna be his wife. You know, like, you can tell he's trying to figure it out. So that question actually makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm not
But
mad at him.
Cersei?
Oh, did you see her nod her head like? But she doesn't say yes exactly. She nods her head, but she says he might. But even if he does, Sansa will do her duty.
I wanted to throw something at her. And no, Joffrey's not going to kill Robb. Joffrey can't fight anything. What a joke. All that was that is Cersei taking out all of her frustration about her life on Sansa. That's all it is. Oh, and the fact that Jaime's a prisoner. She's taking that out on Sansa too.
Yeah, Joffrey does the same thing. So it is what it is.
Well, you know how they say shit rolls downhill? Well, it continues to roll downhill, because in the very next scene, Sansa goes to her chambers. There's a knock at the door, and it's Shae. Basically, Shae just shows up and says, hey, I'm your new handmaiden. And Sansa's like, I didn't think I needed one. And pretty quick, she can find out Shae has no idea what she's doing, but Sansa's really bitchy to Shae. And it's because she just had that dinner with Cersei where she was basically tortured. So she's giving Shae attitude because she's frustrated.
Yeah, but the thing is, what I noticed is Tyrion didn't tell her how to be a handmaiden.
Oh my God, I wrote that down. I said, why didn't Tyrion have her trained?
Because Sansa's correct. Yeah, maybe she shouldn't have been so harsh to Shae, but Sansa is correct in reacting in a certain way, because this girl doesn't know what she's doing.
No, she just stands there. Okay, yeah, I get it. Sansa's young, but Sansa grew up at Winterfell. She knows what a handmaiden's supposed to do. So Shae comes in and she has an accent, which that's the first thing that's going to let you know something's up. And then she just stands there and Sansa's like, what are you doing? And Shae's like, waiting for you to tell me what to do.
And what was the name that she said that she worked for before, Miss?
Oh, yeah, I wrote that down. Lady Zurif.
Lady Zurif, not in this city, apparently. And I'm like, girl, nobody believes that. I can smell your shit from a mile away, and King's Landing stinks. So
yeah, seriously. Like, she tries to, like, just randomly start brushing Sansa's hair, and Sansa's like, not now. What are you doing? And I wonder where that Lady Zurif name came from, though.
I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that, because
I'm curious. You know what I'm curious about. I wonder if somebody on Reddit figured something out. But I will say this. After all the back and forth, Shae's like, do you want me to leave? And Sansa, even though this is obviously like a very untrained, unasked for a handmaiden, Sansa doesn't want her to leave because she doesn't want to be alone.
No.
And she asked her to brush her hair, and that is so sad.
I feel bad for Sansa in these 2 episodes.
She just wanted someone in there because she would rather somebody that she doesn't know be there brushing her hair than her just be sitting there and thinking. That's what that is.
Knowledge is power.
Next scene is pretty iconic because you have Tyrion trying to figure out who his actual allies are.
He wants to make an alliance, and he's first talking to, I believe it's Grand Maester Pycelle. So he's talking to Grand Maester Pycelle, saying that to win wars, we have to do it in other ways. Basically, like we have to make alliances, and we don't, they don't probably have a lot of alliances, even though they're Lannisters. These Lannisters are not; they're just like everybody else. So, I think they're the worst Lannisters. I don't know about you.
Oh my God, I would much rather deal with a Lannisport Lannister.
Yes, not a Castle Rock Lannister. Yeah, no. So he first tells Pycelle that the Queen cannot know this, but he wants to broker an alliance with House Martell, because he wants Myrcella to marry the youngest son, which we'll find out is Trystane. But this will only happen when he comes of age and when she comes of age. And he only wants to do this to ensure loyalty when they have to go to war, and an army. They want their army too. And he tells each person that we see in this episode different things. So first he tells him, but he also makes sure, hey, you can't tell the queen. So I think it's smart.
Oh my God, this is brilliant.
The second person he talks to, I like how they acted it out too. The second person he talks to is Varys. He tells him that he plans on marrying Marcella off to Theon Greyjoy. And Varys is just like, wait a minute, that doesn't even make sense because he sides with Robb. He was their ward. That's his, like, basically brother. And Tyrion's just like, well, yeah, that's why it's brilliant, because he can work on the inside and destroy the North for us. And we'll also get their army and their ships. So I thought
Varys is like, yeah, sure.
That makes. I don't think he believed it as much as this one. Baelish. So he tells Baelish that he wants to marry Marcella to Robb and Arryn. And see, Lysa Arryn doesn't like Tyrion Lannister at all. And we've already seen that. She doesn't like the Lannisters, period. And so that's why he's like, wait, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to marry Marcella to Robin when Lysa hates you? And he's like, I'm going to basically broker this. This is what he's going to be the one, because he has ties to her family.
I want to see the little man fly. Sorry, my bad.
Robb and Arryn is interesting in the show. So the gratitude for aiding, so basically what he's going to get out of this is the gratitude for aiding to win the war, adoration of the king for bringing the Vale back into the fold, because the Vale has never, it's been a while since the Vale has helped out. And he gets Harrenhal.
He's like, Harrenhal's cursed.
And then Tyrion's just like, yeah, but tear it down and make it however you want. You'll get to be the Lord of the Riverlands. So,
and he's not opposed to it.
He's also the most upset when he finds out that that's not what he's getting.
Oh yeah, he's mad. He's pissed.
It's really well acted.
Oh yeah, it's very well acted, and Tyrion is just trying to find out who is going to tell the queen. He needs to know who he can trust and who he can't.
It's a smart way to do it.
It's brilliant.
The night is dark and full of terrors, old man.
This is very interesting. We're back in the Stormlands. We're at Renly's chambers at night. And it's Renly and Loras. They're making out. And Loras just gives him, like, the cold shoulder. And Renly's like, why? And Loras is basically saying, you need to bang my sister.
Pretty much.
So 100%, since we get more confirmation of how Loras and Marjorie work in sync, Loras was there to get Renly riled up. Like 1,000%. They've had a conversation, and Marjorie's been like, all right, well, you go in there and you get him all excited, and then you tell him no, and then I'll commit. You know that was arranged. You know it was.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Right. And so Renly's just like trying to get Loras to fool around, and Loras is like, no. And he tells him, he says, not tonight. There's another Tyrell who requires your attention. You didn't win my father's support or his army on charm alone. And Loras is not kidding. He knows that for them to have any chance, Marjorie needs a baby.
Yep.
That's just how it is. So Renly's like frustrated. He tries one more time, and Loras is like, hell no. And Loras even tells him, he says, your vassals are starting to snigger behind your back. brides aren't usually virgins 2 weeks after their wedding night. Okay, now this I did not remember. But Renly says, and Marjorie's a virgin? And Laura says, officially. I was like, oh my God, I did not remember that at all. Loris is like, officially, yeah. In reality, hell to the no. And so Loris is like, shall I bring her to you? Which is a good thing that Marjorie is not a virgin at this point, because if they were to do anything, she's going to need to know what to do. Because imagine if Marjorie had no clue and she was like a shy maid. A funny reference to a ship. But if she was a shy maid and then Renly's gay, like, ain't nothing happening. So it's giving, later on when Lady Olenna talks about how she got her husband.
Yes. That's exactly what it's giving. I love it.
It is. It's giving that. That's why I love it. So anyway, Loris leaves to go get his sister. Marjorie comes in with the most low-cut, showing half your boob dress you've ever seen in your life. She looks amazing. And as soon as she comes in, he's like, hey, I gotta warn you, I've been drinking.
What?
He's in denial that everybody knows. Like, and Marjorie is so, I swear, look, you gotta love Highgarden. I think we say Dorne, but I think we'd be fine at Highgarden because the Tyrells are just like, hey, it is what it is. Loris is all acting like he's not gay. And Marjorie takes off her dress, and you could tell Renly knows that she's beautiful, but ain't nothing happening. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing comes up at all.
No, and like, so she tries to put her hand down his pants, and she looks sad because ain't nothing going on at all. Actually, it's probably retracted, honestly. Yeah. And so Renly says, some say the beauty most desired is the beauty concealed. Like, shut up, Renly. So Marjorie's like, all right, well, fine. This is not working. So she just like cuts to the chase. And she's like, do you want my brother to come in and help? And he looks appalled. And I put a note. I was like, Olenna told her to do this. And so Ridley's like, what? And he's acting like, again, everybody doesn't know. And Marjorie's just matter of fact. She's like, he could get you started. I know you wouldn't mind. Or I can turn over and you can pretend I'm him. Which, I love Marjorie for this. Because there's a lot of ways, I don't know how this is going to sound, but there's a lot of ways, like, that's what I would say. Andrew, you know how I just say stuff? Like, I'd be like Marjorie. I'd be like, okay, either I can go get him, or we can make it really dark in here, and I'll just roll over. Like, can we just get past this point of you acting like you're not gay?
Yeah.
Like, can we just move past that? Because, I mean, they've already been married for how long? At least a couple weeks. And Marjorie knew they were together before that. Like Renly and Loris have been together for I don't know how long. So, and Marjorie even says there's no need for us to play games. Save your lives for court. You're going to need them. Duh. And then Renly looks appalled. And so she has to explain to him. And she's being sweet because she sits down and she's like rubbing his shoulder and she's like, your enemies aren't happy about us. They want to tear us apart. And the best way to stop them is for you to put a baby in my belly. We can try again later. You decide how you want to do it. With me and Loris, however else you like. And then she actually turns his head to look at her. And she says, whatever you need to do, you are a king. Marjorie plays the game so well.
Yep.
I love her. But also, I really feel, hell, Andrea, I feel like you'd be like that. If you're in Marjorie's place, I feel like you get frustrated and be like, hey, if you need it to be dark in here and you need me to roll over on my stomach, whatever, dude. Like, we just need to make this happen. Can you stop acting like everybody doesn't know that, like, you and the Night of Flowers?
Yep. Yeah, I would.
Iconic scene. A lot of people like it because Marjorie's topless, but you get to know that the Tyrells, they don't mince words.
Tears aren't a woman's only weapon. Have I shocked you, little dove?
Next, we go back to King's Landing, and we're in Cersei's chambers at night.
Yeah, she's mad because Tyrion comes in, and she's mad because he sold Marcella to Dorne.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really sell it. But she's pissed. She calls him a monster and all this stuff. Like I understand why she's mad. I think she's rightfully mad because that's her only daughter. But this is what the princess, that's what she's made for. She was born to marry, but the Martells hate the Lannisters. They have every reason to hate the Lannisters, but they're not going to hurt her over there.
Andrea, will you tell them why they hate the Lannisters? Because a lot of people don't know.
Oh, well, Elia Martell was married to Prince Rhaegar, and Tywin Lannister ordered the death of Elia and her children.
Yes, by the mountain.
And Emery Lorch, by the way, which we will see in this episode. But yeah, Emery Lorch also.
And it was really bad.
Yeah, they don't have problems with killing children.
No, and just so people know, because, if you're just show, Rhaegar, that's Daenerys' older brother that died. So the Lannisters killed Daenerys', that would be what, sister-in-law and
her nephew and niece.
Yeah, niece and nephew.
That they only did that because they didn't want anybody to contest the throne.
Mm-hmm. And it was so bad that I can't remember who tells the story. I don't know if it's Barristan, but Tywin presented the children to Robert, all y'all Bobby B stands, and they were laid out on like Lannister banners, and like there was so much blood, like you couldn't tell because it was just all red. Like, it's bad.
Yes.
It's really bad. It's really gory and really awful. So yeah, Dorne does not like the Lannisters.
They have a definite reason why.
And I thought it was interesting that Tyrion says, just how safe do you think Marcella is if the city falls? Do you want to see her butchered like the Targaryen children? So Tyrion knows how jacked up that was.
Yeah. I really liked that scene, but yeah, the whole point of it was to say, basically, Maester Pycelle's a piece of shit.
Yep.
How can a man be brave if he's afraid? And that is the only time a man can be brave, he told me.
Okay, next we go to Theon. I'm going to talk about the letter real quick, but then I want you to talk about after that.
Oh, go ahead.
Because that's your people. Okay, so we see Theon, and he has a scroll that he's written, and I paused it because I wanted to know what it said. And it says, Rob, I hope this reaches you in time. My father has rejected the offer and plans to attack the north, raiding the shores and taking Deepwood Mott. Mobilize your army and make for the north before it's too late. I'll write again when I can. But then he burns it. If Theon had sent that, Rob could have done something. At least they would have been aware. Because at this point, Rob is waiting to find out if he's going to have a fleet. So, but yeah, he burns it, and that is when Theon decides he is not a Stark. He's a Greyjoy. Yep. So, you want to talk about the next scene?
Yeah. I guess that guy with him is supposed to be the damn pair, right?
I was hoping you would say that. Like, can we please have him act a little crazier and be called the damn pair, please?
He was too serious. I'm just going to call him the damn pair, but that's not how the damn pair is in the books. But...
And it totally is supposed to be the damn pair. You can tell because his hair's stringy and stuff, but the damn pair is crazy.
The damn pair is a very interesting character.
So, the damn pair is Euron and Balon's brother.
Yes.
Just in case people don't know. And he's a bit wacky.
Yeah, he's a priest of the drowned god. So, so what's happening here is Theon is consecrating himself back to the drowned god because he wasn't, he was away for so long, so he has to like basically reborn himself into it. Born again from the sea, and then he says blessing with salt, which is the water, and then bless him with stone, and then bless him with steel. And they say what is dead may never die, but rises again harder and stronger.
But if it was accurate, what would they have done to Theon?
They would have put him in the water and drowned him.
Yep. That is how they determine if you are supposed to be one of them. They drown you, and if you come back, you are. I read one time somebody was saying that that ritual is kind of like, I think, what they do with like Navy SEALs. Like they drown you and you get CPR, but I mean, you could die.
Yes.
So it's definitely dangerous.
It's dangerous, but it's one of my favorite rituals. So
I know. Why do you think I want you to talk about it? That's your people.
yeah, I wish Theon was drowned, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Knowledge is power.
So Littlefinger finds out that he was lied to. He was part of like a scheme because he was a good person because he didn't tell Cersei, which I'm really shocked he didn't tell Cersei.
Okay, if we think about it, probably the only reason he didn't tell Cersei is because at this moment, Tyrion has more power than Cersei.
Yeah, I agree. And he's like, so basically Harrenhal's off the table.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to send him somewhere else. He has something more important for Peter Baelish. He's going to send him to see Catelyn Stark because they need Jaime Lannister.
Yeah. And Littlefinger's like, they're not going to release the Kingslayer. And Tyrion's like, Rob wouldn't, but his mom might. You want to go see your beloved cat?
It's creepy, but also it's really good acting for both of them. I just like how pissed off Peter is. And then we see Sir Bronn. This is the only time I like Sir Bronn of the Blackwater, by the way. But they go to Maester Pycelle, because Maester Pycelle was with another lady of the evening.
Oh, God, poor girl for what she was doing and because she was scared.
But yes, I can't imagine having to be paid to sleep with somebody like Maester Pycelle. But Tyrion, he's pissed off, and it's rightfully so. But Pycelle tries to backtrack. He's like, I never would have. I'm very loyal. And I'm like, you're loyal to only the Lannisters. And eventually he says, yeah, I'm loyal to the Lannisters. You can ask Tywin. I have always been loyal since the Mad King. And I'm like, probably before that. And they cut his beard because he hates the beard. Tyrion does. And they're going to throw him into the Black Cells.
I thought it was a little interesting because cutting Pycelle's beard is almost like the Dothraki losing a braid.
Yeah.
He's shamed. Like, it's not nearly as serious, but it's a form of shame. And I think, yeah, I like it too. We don't like Pycelle at all. We don't.
Any fool with a bit of luck can find himself born into power. But earning it for yourself, that takes work.
So right after that, he talks to Varys.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to tell Varys that he can obviously trust him and he can trust Peter Baelish, shockingly. But probably not as much as Varys. But I like how Varys is just like, well, are you sure? Because the small council grows smaller every day. This is like a really powerful scene. Power is a curious thing, my lord. Are you fond of riddles?
Why? Am I about to hear one?
3 great men sit in a room. A king, a priest, and a rich man. Between them stands a common sellsword. Each great man bids the sellsword kill the other 2. Who lives and who dies?
Depends on the sellsword.
Does it? He has neither a crown, nor gold, nor favor with the gods.
He has a sword, the power of life and death.
But if it's swordsmen who rule, why do we pretend kings hold all the power?
I don't know how many times I've heard that on TikTok. It's probably like 200, if not more.
People are putting that on coffee cups now. It's interesting.
Power resides where a man believes it resides. It's a trick, a shadow on the wall, and a very small man can cast a very large shadow.
Vala Morgulis.
Vala Morgulis.
We're in the Riverlands, which is exactly where Andrea would like to live one day.
Yep.
And it's the Night's Watch recruits with Yoren, and Arya is there. And Yoren is basically saying, you should be sleeping. And she says she can't sleep. He offers her some wine, and she's like, I don't like the taste. And he's basically saying, you don't really drink it for the taste. She's like, how do you sleep? And he's like, same as most men. But she's like, you've seen horrible things. So she's trying to find out, I've got this stuff in my head. And when I try to sleep at night, I can't sleep because I see it. And a little bit that broke my heart is Yoren says, you didn't see that. I made damn sure. And he's talking about making sure she didn't see her dad lose his head. So that tugged on my heart a bit.
Yeah.
She says she closes her eyes and she sees them up there, all of them standing there. Joffrey, the queen, and my sister. Poor Arya. Yoren tells a story that he saw his brother stabbed through the heart, like right on their doorstep. And it was a guy named Willem. And he ran off before anybody could catch him. And Yoren says, here's the funny part. I can't picture my brother's face anymore. But Willem, he goes on to describe him perfectly. And he says, it got to the point where I would say his name every night before I went to bed. Willem, Willem, Willem. A prayer almost. Well, one day, Willem came riding back into town. I buried an axe so deep in Willem's skull, they had to bury him with it. And that is the beginning of Arya learning her prayer of death.
There is only one God, and his name is Death.
So after that, the men that are sent to find Gendry show up.
Yeah, they're here for the bastard. And of course, Yoren's just like, I'm not going to give him up. I'm not giving... These are men of the Night's Watch now. These are all men of the Night's Watch. They can't really touch them, But they do, because they're going to kill them all. These are all children, by the way, pretty much.
The three guys for the Black Cells and Yoren, and everybody else is kids.
They all fight, and Yoren does really well, but he gets killed.
Everything's crazy. There's a fire, and you have Jack and Hagar with Rorge and Biter, and they're locked up. And so Jack is like, boy, help us. Okay. You know how I told you earlier, like, I'm forming a theory?
Yeah.
Jack and Hagar is fascinated that Arya stops and risks her life to hand him an axe, right?
Yes.
He's been calling her boy, because he knows that she's not a boy. Here's my thing. Okay, a faceless man could have gotten out of that damn cage they were in. That was a rickety-ass cage. That's a faceless man. Jack and Hagar stayed in that cage for a reason. I think he knows who Arya is. I think he was hired by Littlefinger to find Arya. And I think he's watching her. Later on, when she's at Harrenhal, Littlefinger sees her and pauses and makes note of it, but doesn't say anything.
Yep.
That's why I think that's real. I think Littlefinger hired Jack and Hagar, but I think it turned into Jack and Hagar was supposed to keep an eye on her, make sure she stays alive. But then I think Jaqen saw something in her. And then, she goes on her trip or whatever. She gets the coin. What do you think?
Yeah, that fits.
I've never thought of that before. It started with the whole, why was he in the Black Cells? And then when he gets the axe from her, like, he's not like rushing to get out. He kind of looks at her. And I was like, no wonder he's not rushing to get out. He's a faceless man.
Yep.
Like, he could have gotten out of that thing the entire time. Faceless men can do, like, anything. And just in case you don't know. I mean, They're faceless men. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you that. That's my theory.
That's a good theory. I like that theory.
Thanks. Thank you.
So Arya's sword gets taken away. They're asking where Gendry is. They're all standing there. And Arya's just like, she sees his helmet over by Lamy.
Yeah, I was really quick thinking on Arya's part because the helmet just happens to be by Lamy, so they think that Gendry's dead.
As always, it's Amanda here to say thank you to all of our listeners and to ask that if you liked this week's episode, leave us an honest rating. And if you'd like to continue the discussion, please feel free to comment on our post over at our Girls Nerd Out podcast account on Instagram. If you're interested in buying any of our merch to support the podcast and so that we can continue to release weekly episodes, then check it out over at girlsnerdoutpodcast.com. Our podcast logo was designed by Chairman Bilal over on Fiverr. Our podcast merch was put together by me, myself, and I at Southern Mother of Dragons on all social media. If you're interested in my personal merch, check it out at southernmotherofdragons.com, and the designs for that merch were put together by Ryuchi Studios on Etsy after an in-depth back and forth discussion with me to find the perfect merch for me and my loyal supporters. The music played while I tell you about all the ways you can support us and the production of the podcast is Kawaii Girl by Pumpkin Pie. Thanks for listening.
Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
And you just listened to
Girls Nerd Out.